All right, in this video, I'm going to be going through questions that I've gotten from a bunch of y'all in the YouTube comment section. So these are collected actually, 90% of these are from the YouTube comment section in my channel. And then the rest of them are DMs that I got. So they're all just really good questions, more like longer form type questions, not quick one-offs. I might be able to answer some of these relatively quickly. My goal here really is to give you like the best possible answers, as concise as possible. That being said, being detailed and thorough is the whole point of this as well. So I'll do that without trying to be too rambly. So let's get into it. Pretty simple. Questions from YouTube. Let's frickin' do it. By the way, in the future, if you drop a question in the YouTube, in my YouTube channel, like I'm just going to put it in these videos because I think it just like benefits everybody by being able to answer these, not just like typing in the YouTube comment section, but doing a video on it as well. So let's do it. So, okay. Just started my maintenance phase after dieting to very low body fat to the point my weight was almost not moving at all anymore. If my weight gets to that point where it struggles to go down, how can I know I'm actually in maintenance and not in a small calorie deficit that's not big enough to tip the scale? If I don't put on weight, should I add a few calories just to see if weight still maintains, or if it doesn't move when adding 30% more calories, does it mean I'm basically good? Okay, so let's go through this. So start of your maintenance phase, you got super lean, and yeah, weight wasn't moving anymore. So if my weight gets to the point where it struggles to go down, right? So you're kind of entering a plateau phase here. You're still technically in a diet phase, like that's the objective, right? How can I know I'm actually in maintenance and not in a small calorie deficit that's not big enough to tip the scale? Yeah, so here's what you want to do basically. So here's kind of the idea. If you're not losing weight, it's like what you're saying this. If you're at the point where the weight's not going down anymore, then you need to get out of the deficit because you're technically not in a deficit, right? By definition, you're eating maintenance calories if you're not losing weight, right? And you should be looking at that over probably 7 to 14 day time horizon, minimum 14 to 28 day, like even closer to a month is even better. Medium to long-term time horizons is the best when it comes to assessing whether or not you're in a calorie deficit. Most people will be like, oh, I plateaued for 5 days, therefore I'm in a plateau. No, you got to give it a decent time horizon. So that's why I say like 14 to 28 days is like kind of ideal. 7 to 14 is fine in like the short term if you're doing a pretty aggressive fat loss phase. So assuming, I don't have the data here on this person, but I'm assuming that if they haven't hit an all-time low on the scale, they're not losing weight, then they're in maintenance, right? So their question really is like, how do I actually know if I'm actually in maintenance and not in a small calorie deficit? So basically because you're not losing weight anymore, right? That's how you know. If I don't put on weight, should I add a few calories just to see if weight still maintains or if it doesn't move when, yeah, so exactly. Yeah. So here, it's very simple. The first part here, once you've realized that, okay, I'm not hitting regular all-time lows anymore, over the time horizon that I just said, then it's like, okay, I'm basically at a low maintenance here. I need to get into, remember, maintenance calories are a range. Everyone thinks it's this hard number. It's a range. So if you're in a calorie deficit and then you plateau, you're probably in the low end of the maintenance range. You want to get to the middle to the high. So you got to add a bunch of calories. That's why we have like 30%, give or take, is kind of like a good heuristic that I like. And that's still relatively conservative for most people. There's a lot of variables going into that, but it's just a general kind of recommendation that I like to go by. So yeah, in this case, you would want to add calories. So good example, right? It's like, I don't know the math on it, but if you're going to go, you're eating, 1,800 calories and you're like, I'm not losing any more weight. I'm super lean like this person. Then I would immediately identify that and add 30% calories. So that means you're going to go up to 2,340 calories from 1,800. And see, that's still relatively conservative. So you do that, hold for probably 2 weeks, 4 weeks. Either way, you should be monitoring body weight and photos. But if you don't put on weight, 100% immediately add more calories because you should put on weight right away. Like that should be very acute when you come out of the maintenance phase. What's the last part here? If it doesn't move when adding 30% calories, does it mean I'm basically good? No, you want the scale to move. Like you need it to go up. If you're getting out of a diet phase, out of a fat loss phase, you need body weight to go up. We don't want body fat to go up. Now we understand it probably will, very, very small amount, but we want to maintain that for the most part. The body weight should go up right away. Like right when you add 30% calories, glycogen, water, fiber, honestly, a little bit of body fat, very, very low amount, some muscle tissue, like you're going to spike on the scale, which again is actually mostly the aforementioned that I said. It's going to be like a function of water, glycogen, more food in your gut, right? So hopefully that answers your question there. Okay, let's get down here. Beep, 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 beep. Next. Okay, how do you deal with untracked meals? If I'm cooking for myself at home, I understand I can eyeball calories and be in a range that's reasonable in such a way that counting doesn't matter. But what about eating out where it's almost impossible to assess calories? Let's say you eat sushi. Do you count how many you eat to get an idea, then go into a small deficit in a couple of days just to compensate, or do you not count at all, but try to order something that's in itself not egregious to not go overboard too much? Or maybe in the untracked meals you can allow to have sometimes one every week, couple of weeks where you go all out and eat however you want and eyeball the rest of the time. Yeah, so basically your main question here is going to be the first one. So when you said, how do you deal with untracked meals? What about eating out where it's almost impossible to assess calories? I don't care about calories at all when I'm eating out. That's literally the whole point, is to not even think about calories or at all. I guess to an extent it's in the back of my head of like, oh, that's a lean protein. That's probably high protein, low fat. Okay, that's pretty quick decision I can make. But other than that, I'm not trying to think like, this is 100 grams of carbs. This is, 150 grams of cooked rice. That's probably this. I don't even pay attention to that. Because the whole point of these untracked meals in my coaching program is to practice intuitive eating skills. So you're going to have your technical eating skills, which is great. You're always running in the back of your head as far as like calories and macros and things like that. That's fine. You should be able to use that. But the main focus is to focus on things like fullness cues, slow down eating, and just like get exposure to not having to weigh and track your foods. Because most people are like, they're really good at tracking their meals, or they're really good at cheating and just going way off. They call them cheat meals, right? And just going way off. That's why we don't call these cheat meals. They're free, untracked meals, because you're just making a reasonably healthy decision without tracking. Most people think if they're not tracking, it's like, okay, this isn't a healthy meal anymore. It's like these two extremes. It's like you could just eat like a normal person and not be super stuffed. And you could do that with any food. You could do it with sushi, you could do it with pizza, you could do it with chicken and rice. It doesn't matter. The whole point is you're not putting on the scale, you're not tracking, you don't know what the calories are, you don't know what the macros, and you stop at 80% full. That's it, or close to that. And you just be okay with it. And you become more okay with it the more you do it. Let's say eat sushi. Do you count how many you eat? No, I just eat until I'm 80% full and then stop. Then go in a small deficit in a couple of days. No, I do not compensate at all. Literally, and none of my clients do either. It's like you have your free meal, and then you just do what you would have done normally the next day. You have your normal breakfast, normal lunch, normal dinner, normal snack if you have one or whatever. Your normal meals. Everything's the exact same, okay? Do not count at all, but try to order something that in itself not egregious, not go overboard too much. So my heuristic for like ordering is basically two things. I order what I love, so something I truly am going to enjoy, and ideally it overlaps with something that digests well, something that makes me feel good. So good example, big like Pizza Hut pizza, very low quality. I probably would enjoy eating that, but I'm going to feel horrible right after, and probably for the next day, maybe even 2 days. So not worth it. So that doesn't overlap. That doesn't check off the boxes for those two things. So I don't do it. But I may get a different type of pizza that I do enjoy just as much, but makes me feel way better because I digest it better, and it doesn't like tank my energy, screw up with my digestion, make me feel bloated, screw with my poops, screw with my sleep, not worth it. So that's kind of what I do, is like those two, it's got to overlap and answer yes to those two things. You have allowed to have sometimes one every week, a couple of weeks where you go all out. No, never. That's the whole problem with this fitness thing, people in the fitness industry around cheat meals, in my opinion. It's like, why are you giving yourself this all out? Why would you even want to treat yourself like that? That's disrespectful to your own body, to your own goals, to the person you're trying to become. I would never do that. Now, am I perfect? No. Do I overeat sometimes? Yes, but I never have a moment where I am planning to be like, ooh, I can hardly wait to just go crazy. Why would I do that? That sounds horrible. I'm always thinking about my goals and making decisions through that filter. Through honestly, it's two things. Like, it's always like, am I going to enjoy this? But also I want it to, like Venn diagram, I want it to perfect circle. Like, I want it to overlap completely 100%. Like, do I enjoy it? Am I going to enjoy it? Am I going to feel amazing after? That's what you want to do. Okay. There's no reason you can't just eat a free meal, untracked meal twice per week, which is what I do in my coaching program and I do myself personally. You can do that and continue on making great gains and great progress, whether you're losing fat, maintaining, building muscle, it doesn't matter. You might have some flex to that and adjust that to customize it to yourself. And I do that with all my clients as well. But you can totally do that. I know for most people, they're like, no, that's totally crazy to them. Like, I have to be perfect on a meal plan, or I do perfect on a meal plan and I schedule out cheat meals. It's like, okay, like there's no long-term sustainability with that. Everyone who does that really, really struggles to make progress every year. They end up like making great progress and then sliding back, making great progress, sliding back. I'm looking better every month. I'm looking better every quarter. I'm looking better every 6 months, every year. Seriously. And that's like, that matters to me. Like, I don't want to make progress and look awesome just to look worse in a year from now. And that's the whole idea behind my coaching program. And the design of these free meals is to like teach you the skills and the confidence around just eating a normal meal and being confident and deliberate and intentional and conscious with the decisions around that meal without knowing the calories or macros, and being okay that it doesn't have to be perfect. It is by design. Okay. Next one. Do you have to count calories for basically the rest of your life, at least several times a week, as you mentioned, or can you get to a point where you have your usual meals set up to get your macros and know about how much snacking you can allow and just use your weekly weight average to cut or add a bit more calories if it moves up down too fast? Great question. So here's my answer. Do you have to count calories for basically the rest of your life? I've had people ask me this before. You're an adult, so you can do whatever you want. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to count calories ever, or you could forever. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. I'm not going to tell you what you have to and cannot do or whatever. Now, as far as like options and what that looks like, there's trade-offs. That's what it is. There's just trade-offs to all of this, right? So, for instance, in a fat loss phase, all of my clients, including myself, will have our own personalized kind of setup through my coaching program, which is having a macro/meal-based approach, right? So everything's weighed, tracked, and measured perfectly, or as close to perfect as we can. And then we have 2 free untracked meals per week, going over everything I said before, using the same kind of heuristics there. And we're dialed in, right? And those macros and meal plans are designed, if you're in a fat loss phase, they're designed to put you in a relatively aggressive calorie deficit so that we're losing weight every week, losing fat every week without guessing. It's very predictable. There's no hoping, wishing, guessing. It just happens, right? It's pretty nice. When you're in a physique development phase, maintenance phase, hypertrophy phase, any non-diet phase, any phase that is not losing fat, losing weight, you could flex it however you want. Like, you could count, I'll give you some examples. I've done this with clients before, I've done this myself, where you count calories Monday, Wednesday, Friday, just to keep a little bit of structure. And then the other days are completely intuitive and untracked. And you just kind of eyeball, like what you said here, based on you're eating similar to what you normally would, right? Is it going to be perfect? No, because you're eyeballing. Of course, you're not measuring. Of course, it's not going to be perfect. And you just accept those trade-offs, right? You have to accept those trade-offs. So there is a cost associated with that. So, and then another one you could do is like maybe Monday. These are just ideas, right? Monday to Friday. So you take weekends off tracking, but they're intuitive. So the whole Saturday, Sunday is full days intuitive. Whatever you eat there is all intuitive and untracked. And then Monday to Friday, you're tracked entirely. And then the other one that you could do is, so the usual way that I set things up, like I said, right, is going to be, you have 2 free meals per week. So that ends up being like 8 to 10% of actual meals per week are not tracked, not scaled, not weighed. But what you could do is you could just have 1 free meal every day, right? If you're in a different phase. Now you got to accept the trade-offs with all of these. But it could be like you have breakfast normal, lunch normal, tracked and weighed, and then dinner's free. Yeah, you wing dinner every single day. That is an option, right? And that could this is part of building sustainability into it. Like, you're going to have phases like this. Like, I'm in a maintenance phase right now, gearing up for another fat loss phase coming up, very aggressive short-term one before I go to Spain. I'm going to document all that on here as well. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, actually, because that'll help me get an idea of like what you want to see. But, like, I'm in a maintenance phase right now, so I have more flexibility, which means that I have, this is where you build sustainability, is here. I'm looking to maintain my results as far as fat loss, and I'm looking to build progress, make more results as far as lean muscle tissue, strength, and just keep being better at my intuitive eating habits as well. And just growing roots. That's kind of the analogy I use. You want to grow roots, become this like solid oak tree that the longer you grow, the bigger you get and the harder you are to knock over. So as opposed to the other way people do it, where like they require more and more willpower the longer they do a fitness plan, and it's just a matter of time until they just break and then they just lose it all, right? Horrible way to do it. I'd rather flip that on its head, and I want it to be easier the longer I do it. So that's kind of the way we do this. So that's why, like, this is totally fine. You could do something like this. You don't have to count calories for the rest of your life, but you probably should to some extent for some of your life, on and off, and you can decide how you want to do it. I love tracking macros. I love tracking my calories. So I'm going to do it right now indefinitely for as long as I want to. And I'm loving it right now. It gives me a ton of structure. It gives me clarity. It gives me predictability, so I don't have to guess, hope, wish on my results. I know what is going to happen to my body in the next month, in the next, quarter, in the next year, because I'm doing the things today that are going to get me the outcome tomorrow, right? Now, if you're not doing that, then you have to accept the trade-off on that. Maybe a little bit less clarity, a little bit more ambiguity, a little bit more, I don't know what's going to happen, right? And that's okay. You just have to be okay with that. And then, you would just adjust. So just your last question here. Just use your weekly weight average to cut or add a bit more calories if it moves up or down. Yes. So, the short answer is yes. The thing is, you don't want to adjust calories super often. You really don't. I've literally changed my calories like twice since March. You really don't need to. You just stay consistent, and that's it. You just try. You barely have to adjust. But yes, if you notice, like, over maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 weeks, long time horizon, like several months would be ideal. You notice some things are changing in your scale weight, as well as photos, how you're looking, how you're feeling, then you could change calories a little bit. But I wouldn't even necessarily change calories. I would change your macro split probably, because if you're not in a diet phase, the worst thing you can do is go back into a diet phase sooner than you should. I've done another video on that too. So that's a big mistake. So that's why you don't want to freak out if you're like, oh, I'm feeling fat, scale's going up a bit, and you just go back into a deficit. Bad idea. That is a great way to look skinny fat for a very long time. And that's what happens to so many people. They're like in a diet, out of a diet, in it, out, in, out. It's like, I'm going to diet twice this year and that is it. And then I'm spending months, like most of next year, not dieting, because that is key for, again, growing the roots of my oak tree. Long-term sustainability, baby. Okay, next one. Quick question. When you talked about the 2 free meals, you mentioned focusing on high protein, lots of veggies. So like a pizza or things out of the norm, like a sandwich or something, is not something you include in a free meal. No, false. I include everything. Everything counts. Now, before we go through the heuristic that I talked about before, everything is up for grabs. Everything is good to go. But then you want to run it through this 2-question filter, right? It's like, will I enjoy it? Do I really love it? Not 6 out of 10, 9 or 10 out of 10. And then second, will I feel good after, right? Is this going to enhance how I feel? Like afterwards, how I like to look at it is like, if I go for a walk after, does it feel good? If I could go for a workout after, could I do that? Most people eat crappy food and eat way too much of it. There's no way they could work out right after a meal. So you want to think about that. So that's where you want to start thinking about the quality of the food and the source of the food, and what you choose is based off that. So that's kind of how I do it. I enjoy generally healthy food, but there's some pizzas that I like too that I would say are actually quite healthy because they're high quality and they're not super greasy and trashy. Like it's not like a ton of like fatty, shitty meats on it loaded up with way too much cheese or anything like that. It's high quality bread with a little sprinkle of cheese, some veggies, and usually some type of lean meat or something. So sandwich, that'd be great too. Burger, pizza, shawarma, I don't know, tacos, homemade pizza, homemade burgers, whatever. You could literally just make a different version of what you make on your meal plan too. But you add some avocado, some higher fat stuff, some nuts on the side. Maybe you put more salad dressing on your salad. Like it's all still like quote unquote healthy meal and very similar to your meal plan. It's just, you're just changing up some of the foods that are probably higher calorie than what you normally use, but you know what I mean? Yeah. So everything's fair game, I should say. How do I use this? Here we go. Everything's fair game. How do we get rid of this? There we go. How much would you say this is related to true genetics? For instance, let's say you're eating right and lifting/stretching 5 times a week and eating clean but still skinny fat. What would you do? So what would you say this is related to true genetics? So I guess you just mean results in general. Genetics dictates kind of everything, to be honest. That being said, it's also not helpful to assume that genetics is going to predetermine everything. So it's very dangerous because you can fall into a kind of a victim mindset here, and that's not going to help you at all. So we want stuff that's actually going to help you. So for instance, let's say you're eating right and lifting, stretching 5 times a week and eating clean, but still skinny fat. What would you do? What I would do is I would look at, so here's a good example of doing everything that you're supposed to, but probably not doing it right. So you're eating right. I can tell you you're not. You might think you are, but you're not. And I'm happy to help you on this. So I'm not sure who asked this question, but if you got any questions, just DM me on Instagram this, and I'm happy to audit your nutrition and tell you, because I guarantee you're probably eating healthy. That's great, but macros are not dialed, my friend. Or digestion's off, sleeping's off, something's off, right? Maybe too much booze, something's off. So we can go over that. Lifting, stretching 5 times a week. Stretching you don't really need too much of, but some of that can be helpful. Lifting 5 times a week. So that's great. That's plenty. Like you really only need 3 to 4. 5's great. But that tells me right now, if you're skinny fat, you either haven't been doing it long enough, or your nutrition sucks, or at least it's not elite, right? We got to turn it up and just make it a lot better and optimize it. Or your training routine is just not good. Like you could train every day and see way worse results. A lot of people think it's like, I just need to eat. I just need to check the boxes. I just got to do my meal plan. I just got to work out. I just got to walk and do my cardio. I just got to go to sleep on time. It's like, yeah, like high level, yes, you need to check those boxes. I was talking to a client about this. We were training actually together yesterday. She came to the gym and we were talking about that. It's like, it's not just what you do, it's how you do it. Like execution is everything. So this is a good question in regards to like, this is telling me that you're checking the boxes, but you're just trying to check the box. You're not actually thinking about execution. And maybe you just don't know. So that's where I'm happy to help you 100%. Like that's mostly what I help my clients with, to be honest. Like a lot of them know what to do. They just have really bad execution. So that's where I help them. Having trouble losing weight at 1,800 calories. I weigh 220. Are you saying that raising my calories to 2640 would help me lose weight? I walk 6 to 8K steps per day. So I guess I should increase that, but adding 840 calories would be higher than the extra calories burned by increasing the steps. Yeah, you're overthinking this, and the whole premise is wrong here. So I'm having trouble losing weight at 1,800 calories and you're 220. My brother in Christ, something is wrong here. You're gonna have to DM me here on Instagram because I'm happy to audit your food here for free and just get you sorted. Because 220 pounds, you would be starving, hemorrhaging body weight at 1,800 calories for sure. Even with this low of steps. So first thing I would do, there's 2 things I would do here. First one, these are way too low anyway. So that's why I'm saying like any of my clients that are 220, like I have them on like 3,000 calories and they're dropping 3 to 4 pounds a week, like hemorrhaging body weight, like tons of weight. So this tells me you're tracking wrong, you're snacking. So you're eating meals outside of your actual plan and they're just not documented. That could be happening. Actually, to be honest, that has to be happening. Guarantee you, that's the diagnosis here. That's the issue. So don't increase your calories right now. What you want to do, although we totally could, I'll talk to you about that after. But the first thing is going to be you have to track accurately. You're not. I guarantee you you're not. The second thing I would probably do, like if you're a client, I would increase this to probably, 2640 could be good. Around 2,500, 2,600 could be good. And then we got to make sure your macro split is correct. I don't know what that is here. And then you need to walk way more. This is barely any moving. Like that's horrifying. You need to jack this up to a minimum 10,000, ideally 12,000, and then 10 to 12,000 at 2,600 calories with the appropriate macro split and tracking accurately. Dude, you're crush. I can guarantee you crush for sure. 100%. 100% of the time. So there you go. If you have any questions on that, like I said, DM me. How many calories do you add the first day after stopping the diet phase, next week after? Yeah, so first of all, let's talk about the premise here. This idea that the day after and then the next week and then the week after and ongoing, you slowly add calories. You don't really do that. You add calories over time, but it's a lot longer time horizon than you think. Like you're just going to add calories and then like stay there for like weeks on the short end, weeks on the long end, months to years. So for me, what I've done and most of my clients, we will add calories. I'll add somewhere around 30% right after, the day after. Most people like freak out. They're like, I'll add 100 to 200 calories. Worst thing you can do. Great way to stay skinny fat. You'll literally, You'll basically get all of the benefits of, or sorry, if you sprinkle in calories, like 100, 200 calories the day after you're done the fat loss phase, and you're like, okay, great, I'm going to slowly reverse diet my way out of here. It's the worst thing you can do for your physique, because you're going to basically get none of the benefits of a calorie deficit, but all of the negatives. And the same thing goes for like getting out of the maintenance phase or getting into the maintenance phase. So you don't want that. So you want to make it a very hard, like a very aggressive jump. It freaks a lot of people out because they're like, oh, I'm going to gain weight. Yes, you will. You're not going to gain fat if you do this correctly, but you will gain weight, and you need to gain weight. It's super, super important. So most people are so afraid of this, and they end up just like tanking their metabolism. And again, just like you basically just accumulate and expose yourself to all of the negative side effects and costs associated with dieting and a calorie deficit, but you get none of the benefits because you're not actually losing weight anymore. It's stupid. So to answer your question, how many calories do you add the first day? So 30%, and then the next week, nothing. Just stay there. Week after, nothing. Literally stay there for minimum 1 to 2 months. And then weigh yourself every day, pay attention to the weekly average, pay attention to photos and how clothes are fitting. That's it. And then make an adjustment maybe 2-3 months later if you need to. Depending on movement, workouts, all that stuff. And you probably will add more calories, and you should, especially if you're going ham on workouts. But yeah, like I said, if you on all the other ones, if you have any questions, just send me a DM on Instagram. Happy to help you. Whoopsie. Here we go. Awesome vid, dude. Thanks, dude. How did you know when to stop your fat loss phase? How did you know that your body fat percentage was low enough such that when you gain that glycogen and muscle back again, you'd look how you want to? Good question. So how did you know how to stop your fat loss phase? So first one was the visual, right? I'm looking at my body fat percentage. You assess that in the morning, because once you're already eating some meals, everything kind of changes, right? Acutely. So don't pay attention at night and things like that. Big mistake people make. We all feel fat at night, okay? It's normal. But in the morning, right when you wake up, I was starting to see like, it had been several weeks where I was like, okay, I'm getting veins in my low stomach, and I got like super thin paper cut skin all over, what felt like pretty much all over, right? So I'm like, okay, this is like close to 10% body fat, maybe 11 or 12 on the high end. I'm happy with this. This is the leanest I've ever been. So for me, that was my personal decision. I'm like, this is the leanest I've ever been. This is really hard. Especially the last like couple weeks, right? Like earlier on it wasn't, but like the last 2 weeks, I was like, whoa, this is really hard. Okay. So I got to the look and the feel that I wanted. That's to answer your question. And then the second one was, it had already been 12 weeks. So I'm like, I don't want to keep going. Like I'm good. I got the look and the feel that I want. I don't really need to keep going. You know what I mean? And also I'm going back into a cut in actually a week today. So short one, really aggressive short one. So I'll be documenting all that. But so I'm actually going to shoot for even lower body fat percentage if I can. So I'm going to try and frickin' suffer. But yeah, that's basically it. That's how I knew. And then when you say low enough such that when you gain that glycogen and muscle back again, you look how you want to. Yeah, basically veins under my stomach, full six pack, skin like lower belly was like really paper thin. Right, so there's I had no lower belly body fat, no lower belly fat. So I knew that like when I gain glycogen, it's like, okay, midsection is going to stay tight, and my shoulders and upper body and pecs and arms are just going to blow up once I add food back in, which it did. And this is the problem: if you don't add enough food, you don't get that look, right? So hopefully that answers your question there. Whoops, here we go. Okay. Do you have any tips for people that struggle with binging? It's holding me back from weight loss. Dude, yeah, that's a toughie. Sorry to hear. So, that can be very mentally and emotionally frustrating and exhausting. So now I'm no expert in this, and although I've had exposure to it, not necessarily personally, because I'm not really someone who struggles with that. Although I've eaten way too much food many times in my life, right? But I haven't really struggled with binging, so I'm not a good person to ask in that regard. But I've had many clients that have struggled with this. So yeah, as far as tips, what I would say is from a professional standpoint, if you can find a psychotherapist that specializes with this, that could be very, very helpful. As far as like other tips that I would say is more like high level stuff is, and this is a really important one, I'll start with this one. You need to see yourself as someone who doesn't struggle with binging anymore at some point. You need to be able to see that. If you're like, oh, I really want to quit binging, this is really bothering me, I hate this part about myself, but deep down you're like, I'm going to have this forever. I'm going to be stuck. I'll never be someone who can't, not binge. You're screwed. You're stuck forever, like guaranteed. Doesn't matter how bad you don't want to binge, you will binge for the rest of your life if you think you are destined to binge for the rest of your life. It all starts with belief. So you have to be able to be like, okay, this has been me most or all of my life. It won't be me at some point. I truly believe that. I'm going to continue to work towards that and, reframe and rewire and reprogram my mental operating system so that at some point I will be that person that doesn't struggle with binging anymore, and I can hardly wait for when that happens. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And you need to coach yourself through that. You need to tell yourself that. You need to use the same kind of words that I just did there, and you need to do that frequently because your programming right now is probably the opposite of that, where it's typically a lot of poor self-image. And then that leads into that's kind of first. That's the first thing. You got to change your belief system. You got to see a version of you that doesn't binge at some point down the road. That's the key. And then the next thing I would say is going to be probably just like observing yourself without shame and guilt. So you're probably not good at that either, because I think a lot of people that struggle with binging typically carry a lot of self-criticism, poor self-image, and a lot of guilt and shame around it. And so I think if you can practice some self-compassion to be able to look at yourself and be like, okay, struggling with this thing, that's okay. I'm not a bad person, but this is not in alignment with who I want to become, right? And if you can start it's very hard to do, but if you can observe yourself third person objectively, now you can't fully do it objectively, but just aim to do that as best you can, you'll start to notice things. You'll start to observe certain things. You'll get some light bulb moments. You'll get some really good insight into yourself. And then from there, you can make changes. Once you get insight, once you get data, once you get information, and you actually observe yourself with less emotion and more objectivity, it's from there that you can develop strategies and behavior change that actually grow roots long term, so that you can actually become someone that does, rewire and reprogram the way you think and then the way you behave. So that's kind of what I would say. Those are like kind of high level stuff there for sure. The other thing I would say from a tactical perspective, I guess that was all like psychological, but tactical perspective, I would say avoid fasting. So avoid things like intermittent fasting, eat regular times, because a lot of times people who binge also skip a lot of meals. So very, very important that you eat on a regular schedule, whether you're hungry or not. So force yourself to do it, which I know is kind of controversial if someone who's binging, but just maybe make the portion smaller. But you need to have meal 1, meal 2, meal 3. You could have 4. You could do meal 1, meal 2, meal 3, meal 4 if you want, but 3 or 4 meal schedule, pick it and adjust the meals as you want if you have to. I would also probably spend time, like a dedicated time, like set the dates of not losing weight. Just being like, my focus is, using strategies Tim just said around like eating schedule and things like this. And I'm going to improve my skills around controlling the binging. And also when I do, which is okay when I do, practicing some self-compassion and some, self-awareness around that to see what type of insights and observation I can gather on myself, so that I can develop strategies moving forward. Just like that's the focus. Do you know what I mean? Not the weight loss. And then have a date where you can reassess, where you can be like, am I in a place where I could go into a calorie deficit? Do I have a better hold than I did before? Do I have the skills? And am I confident with the skills where I'm at, where I could probably go into a weight loss phase here? That's how I would probably do it. But yeah, the biggest thing for you is going to be like regular eating schedule. That's crucial. You got to stay on. You got to do that. If you have any questions on this, send me a DM. I forget which ones these are from DMs and which ones are YouTube comments. So I'm just telling all of you guys to DM me, but you might have already. Oh my goodness, what's happening here? There we go. What are you eating once the fat loss phase is done to look that full and still in rip definition in the abs? I lose my abs after 2 days of eating normal again. Yeah, so what are you eating once the fat loss phase is done? So this is a great question. This is a problem I think a lot of people do is they stop the fat loss phase and they're like, I'm just going to go have fun. It's like, you weren't having fun. I get that it's hard, but like you weren't having fun doing this before. If not, like, why are you doing this? If you don't enjoy the process, you're not going to be good at this game long term. this is why I'm good at winning this game long term. Because even when I hate it, I love it. Because I don't really hate it. It's just hard, and I like it when it's hard, right? So, but what am I eating? So I'm eating the exact same foods. That's the thing. I eat 90 to 95% of the exact same foods I do in a fat loss phase. I eat in a physique development phase, in a non-diet phase. I just eat more, higher portions. And then I sprinkle in some extra things where I'm like, oh, I couldn't really add maple syrup to my whatever, like my fruit bowl or something. Now I could like add a little bit extra sugar because I have so many carbs to go through, right? Like stuff like that. So, and then there's like this cereal that I get that's like rice puffs, very low, like very small, like a low list of ingredients, super healthy, digests well, but it's a ton of carbs. So it's a great way for me to get my carbs in. So I have that cereal when typically I won't have it when I'm dieting because it takes up too many of my carbs, right? So I save something like that for like a maintenance or a physique development phase. So yeah, so I basically, honestly, almost entirely like eat as much of the same foods as you do in the fat loss phase. That's going to help you a ton. And also you got to look at macro splits too, because I don't know if you're counting calories here and counting and tracking your macros, but like if your protein's too low, your carbs and fats are too high, you have too many free meals. If you're still doing cheat meals, just quit that right now. That's gonna screw you, because you lose your abs 2 days after eating normal again. That is a egregious issue. Like that should never happen. That shouldn't like you might lose a bit of abs, like a touch, and that would happen after weeks. Like if that happens after 2 days, something's wrong here. You're something wrong with your strategy. So this would be a pretty simple fix. I would say the biggest one for you is going to be like, you have to track your macros. I'm not sure if you are. My MacroIntuitive Protocol that I do with clients. I'm not sure if you've seen videos on that or me talk about that, but just very quickly, it's literally just following a macro-based or meal plan approach, right? Everything's weighed except for 2 free meals per week, okay? So do that, and don't binge on the 2 free meals. You do that, and you're going to be just fine. But the key, I guess, too, is like your macros are going to have to be like 1 gram per pound of body weight or close to there for protein, and then fats probably need to be 25 to 30% of your calories, and then you can backfill with carbs. Something like that, somewhere near there, okay? But that's the key, because sometimes people's macros are all screwed up, or they're like kind of tracking, kind of not. It's like, bro, you got to track almost all of the time if you want to have this look. You can't just have this look and eat intuitively. So that's probably what was happening here, is you're probably just eating totally off track, and this is like the very expected consequence of that. So this isn't surprising if you do it like that. But like, I mean, if you're tracking your macros, you're following similar protocol or doing your own thing, whatever. You don't have to do the same protocol I do. I'm biased. I love it, but there's a lot of things that work out there. But I think, yeah, that's the key, is you just gotta be like way more diligent with your tracking. That's gonna be the key. Because I lost, I probably put on 1 to 2% body fat increase, and I'm happy with that. That's great. Like my abs still look and feel really good. Now, are they as lean as the end of my diet phase? No, but they're close. But they didn't really lose. I didn't really lose my abs for like at least, and I shouldn't say lose my abs. They didn't start to look different until like a month to 2 months after the diet phase was done. It's like 6 to 8 weeks. Like if you're 2 days after eating, something's wrong here. So again, if you have any questions, just send me a DM. Anyways, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys saw got some value out of that. Whoops, there we go. And I got more questions, actually. Those are just, I figured, it's been 38 minutes here, so I'll do another one on this. Let me know if you like these, if you want more of these. And I could always set up a form where you could just send me questions. But I'm going to take basically all the good questions that I get from like Instagram DMs that, you guys send me, other people send me, whatever. And all the really good questions in the YouTube comments. So I'll still answer the YouTube comments directly, but I'm going to take them and throw them in something like this and do a video on them, just so like more people can see it, because I know I value stuff like this, to be honest. So maybe you do, maybe you don't. I like seeing other questions from other people. I'm like, oh, I am curious about that. I wouldn't even have thought of asking that. And then you can, I don't know, it's a great way to learn. So yeah, hopefully you saw some value in this. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And if you have more questions for me, that's great. And if you're one of the people that sent me one of these questions or not, and you have questions for me, my DMs are always open. No gatekeeping at all on my Instagram or my YouTube or any of my socials. I give away everything for free. Okay, as much as I possibly can. After my clients are looked after, my paid clients, I'm literally just giving away free sauce. Okay, so I am not gatekeeping any of that shit. So yeah, so send me a DM and subscribe to the channel. Peace and love.